Kastytis stood alone on the windswept shore of Sventoi, the Baltic Sea's briny tang stinging his nostrils, its waves hissing like a grieving widow. His nets hung empty, the coarse hemp rough against his calloused hands, his tongue bitter with the salt of a life that offered no warmth. The villagers shunned him, their whispers sharp as gulls' cries, mocking the quiet man who gazed too long at the waves, searching for a home he'd never known. They couldn't feel the ache in his chest, the dreams that filled his nights with a scent of kelp and longing. For weeks, a woman had haunted his sleep, her amber eyes soft with sorrow, her voice a low tide murmuring promises of never being alone. Tonight, his net dragged heavily, the sea's moan echoing in his bones. Expecting fish, Kastytis froze when he pulled up a single shard of amber, small and warm, its glow flickering like a candle in fog. It pulsed in his palm, a fragile heartbeat, its surface slick with a faint, sweet resin that clung to his skin. He clutched it, the shard's heat searing his heart with hope, or the ghost of love. Tucking it into his coat, he rowed back to his shack, the oars creaking, the sea's breath cold and damp on his face, its whispers curling like smoke in his ears. Sleep came heavy, the air thick with the mildew of his shack. He sank through a dream of black water, its icy grip choking his lungs, the taste of iron flooding his mouth. He landed in a palace of amber, its walls radiant yet mournful, weeping a honeyed scent that soured into decay. She stood there, Jūratė, her beauty fragile, her seaweed hair drifting, releasing a faint, briny musk. "I've waited for you," she whispered, her voice a chorus of sighs, soft as lapping waves but edged with a discordant hum. Her fingers brushed his cheek, cold and slick, like fish scales, and for a moment, Kastytis felt whole. But her amber eyes flickered with pain, and the walls groaned, their golden faces mouthing silent pleas, their screams a faint vibration in his teeth. He woke sobbing, the shard's resinous heat burning his chest, its pulse throbbing in his ears. Kastytis clung to the shard, its sticky warmth his only proof she was real. By day, he worked his nets, the sea salt crusting his lips, its roar drowning the villagers' pitying murmurs. His loss to the waves, they said, their voices like gravel underfoot. Kastytis didn't care. Jūratė's voice followed him, soft and aching, a melody carried on the wind's damp breath. "I'm lonely too," she said, her words pooling in his mind like tears, tasting of sorrow and sea. He pressed the shard to his lips, its sweet bitter resin coating his tongue, a vow he couldn't break. He stopped sleeping, the shack's creaking timbers and the sea's distant wail keeping him awake. Jūratė's presence grew, her reflection shimmering in rain-soaked puddles, her silhouette fading into mist that smelled of rotting kelp. The shard glowed brighter, its pulse a drumbeat in his veins, sinking into his palm like a lover's bite. He whispered her name, Jūratė, to the sea, its waves answering with a low, mournful keen. Her voice turned desperate, a cracked bell ringing in his skull. "Don't leave me," she begged, her fear a cold weight in his chest, her loneliness his own. He fled inland, the shard's heat scalding his hand, the forest's pine-sharp air stinging his lungs. But the sea followed, rivers gurgling her name, their waters tasting of salt and grief. Roadside mirrors reflected her face, her eyes brimming with tears, her breath a damp chill on his neck. "I need you," she whispered, her voice a sob that vibrated in his bones, and Kastytis wept, the shard's resin bitter on his lips. He clawed at it, now fused to his flesh, its glow pulsing like a wound, blood and amber dust mingling with the earth's lonely scent. Her cries echoed louder, a siren's wail that drowned his own. The villagers found him crumpled in a field, his hand a bloody ruin, the shards like casting shadows that danced like mourners. His whispers of Jūratė were prayers, soft as a lullaby, but they locked him in the church, its musty air heavy with wax and fear. The seas claimed him, they said, their voices trembling with sorrow. Kastytis only wanted to hold her, to end their shared emptiness. The walls dripped seawater, its briny reek choking the air, candles flickered, their smoke curling like her hair. Jūratė appeared, no longer radiant but broken, her skin flickering to reveal a shadow, something ancient, trapped, its hunger born of endless solitude. "I loved you," she said, her voice splintering, a tide of grief that tasted of ash on his tongue. Kastytis reached for her, the shard's pain a fire in his bones, but her eyes widened, her breath a sharp gasp of seaweed and despair. "He's coming," she whispered, her voice a shiver in the air. "He'll take us both." A pressure crushed his chest, a thunder that roared in his ears, a grief too vast for the world. Lightning seared the sky, its ozone tang burning his throat, and the sea wailed, a chorus of their entwined voices. The amber palace rose from the shore, its walls weeping a sickly sweet resin, their groans a low dirge that shook the earth. Kastytis staggered inside, drawn by Jūratė's fading warmth, the air thick with salt and decay. She stood, her beauty crumbling, her form stretching into something too vast, too lonely, a creature bound by the sea's eternal sorrow. "Don't leave me," she sobbed, her fingers grazing his, cold and trembling, her amber eyes pleading through a veil of tears. Then Pacunas descended, not a god but a void, an abyss of malice that devoured light, love, and hope. The sky split with a deafening crack, its jagged wound revealing a churning maw of eyes and teeth, each eye a mirror reflecting Kastytis's and Jūratė's entwined despair. The air turned acrid, thick with the stench of charred ozone and something older, like rotting stars. Thunder roared, not as sound but as a force that clawed at their souls, a grating screech that burrowed into Kastytis's skull, splintering his thoughts. The ground shuddered, the palace's amber walls cracking with a sound like breaking bones, their resin ascent turning rancid, choking his lungs. Jūratė clung to Kastytis, her form unravelling into a writhing mass of shadow and sorrow, her seaweed hair tangling around him, slick and cold, smelling of drowned things. Her voice broke into a keening wail, a sound that tasted of salt and blood, piercing his heart. "We could have been enough," she cried, her amber eyes weeping tears that burned his skin, their heat a fleeting echo of her love. Pacunas's void pulsed, its eyes locking onto Kastytis, each gaze a blade that carved away his past, his mother's lullabies, now a faint hum, his childhood laughter, now a distant echo, Jūratė's touch, now a fading warmth. The void's breath was a frigid gust, tasting of ash and oblivion, freezing his tears as he screamed, his voice lost in the cacophony of shattering amber and Jūratė's despair. The palace collapsed, its shards raining like frozen tears, each piece singing a high, mournful note as it struck the shore, their resinous tang mingling with the sea's briny reek. Jūratė reached for Kastytis, her fingers brushing his one last time, her touch a fleeting chill, her eyes pleading as the void tore her apart. Her form dissolved into a tide of black water, its surface rippling with her final cry, a lament that echoed through the sea's depths, tasting of salt and eternal loss, "I only wanted you." Kastytis felt himself unravel, his body dissolving into fragments of light, each fragment burning his skin like embers, his heart breaking as the void's hunger swallowed him. The void spoke, not in words but in a weight that crushed his mind, its voice a low, grinding hum that vibrated in his bones. "You were never hers. You were ours." Pacunas's punishment was not justice but annihilation, a cosmic decree that their love was a wound in the universe that could only be sealed by their erasure. The air grew still, heavy with the aftertaste of ozone and grief, the sea's wail fading to a whisper, the shore littered with amber that pulsed faintly, its warmth the cruel mockery of their lost bond. Dawn broke over Šventyje, the sea quiet, its briny scent softened by morning dew. Kastytis's shack stood empty, its timbers creaking in the wind, and his boat, a ruin, splintered on the rocks. The villagers spoke of a storm that wept like a woman, its thunder a scream that lingered in their ears, their voices hushed with grief. "He's gone," they said, turning away, their hearts heavy with an ache they couldn't name. The amber stayed. Fishermen found shards in their nets, warm, pulsing with a faint, sorrowful hum, their resin a scent sweet yet bitter, like a memory of loss. Those who held them dreamed of a woman with amber eyes, her voice a lullaby of grief, her breath a damp chill on their skin. The sea grew still, but the villagers avoided the shore, the air thick with the tang of salt and something sadder, their footsteps muffled by the weight of unspoken tears. They say the amber cries, its tears glistening in the moonlight, and those who listen too long walk into the waves, clutching shards that burn their hands, their eyes wet with tears not their own, their mouths tasting of salt and a love they'll never know.